Doing Marriage Well for August 19th, 2026. Preserving your marriage when convictions clash. I've talked about how couples blend and affect each other and how that can cause problems. But sometimes there is frustration because we don't rub off on each other. We expect our spouse to think as we do. If you root for the Seahawks, as God intended, and your spouse cheers for the Broncos, that's a problem. On a more serious note, what we think about politics can cause a serious struggle. Many people feel very strongly about political issues and may see certain political issues as moral issues. When differences like this get heated, the best option is to agree you won't talk about it. Follow your convictions and expect your spouse to do the same. Another way this can be difficult is over something one spouse sees as a conspiracy theory. I know a guy who went further and further down the conspiracy rabbit hole, flat earth and all. It was a significant part of what eventually ended his marriage. The problem is that most of these folks are unable or unwilling to keep their mouths closed about what they think. Agree to disagree and move on is rarely in their playbook. This means the problem is not what they think, but rather that they are not respecting their spouse's desire to not hear about it. And that is how I suggest you deal with it if you find yourself there. While some disagreements are all about perspective, others, such as faith, touch the very core of who we are. Even what denomination one prefers can be a problem. If one spouse is Christian and the other is not, that's more difficult. If both were following Jesus when they married and one has since left the faith, that is particularly problematic. These issues are even worse when there are children at home. In 1 Corinthians 7:12-16, Paul tells us to stay with an unbelieving spouse if they are willing. And I would add, if it's safe to do so. But that command doesn't make it an easy thing to do. Constantly trying to get your spouse saved is understandable, but it rarely works and usually causes a lot of problems. I suggest you pray for God to use others to influence your spouse for Him. The other side of this is getting your unbelieving spouse to not harass you about your faith. This is not really a religious issue. It's a matter of common courtesy and decency. Approach it that way rather than feeling persecuted for your faith. It can be challenging when your spouse differs with you on something you feel is important. Offer grace and pray for God to speak to either of you if what you believe is not what He wants. This is Paul, and the Seahawks could repeat this year.